Welcome to the Best Life Code by Dr. Rudy. Dr. Rudy, how excited are you for episode number one?
Vivek, I've been looking forward to this episode number one. Let's go.
I'm equally pumped. I'm very excited. Let's start with your story first. So let's go back in time and tell me about your upbringing. Where were you born and raised? And did you always want to be a doctor? Is either of your parents a doctor? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Haiti. So my dad was German, went to Haiti in the 1950s and married my Haitian mom. So I was born and raised in Haiti. I went to Catholic school in Haiti and actually started first year med school in Haiti. Because in Haiti, you go straight to med school after high school. I was the first of my class in med school in Haiti. And my professors told me I have a bright future. But Haiti started having political problems back in 1991. And I saw the writing on the wall. So I left Haiti in 91 and I emigrated to Miami. My first job in Miami was at Dunkin' Donuts. My second job was at Macy's. I didn't even have enough money to go to school yet. I had to learn English. So I worked my first year and then I went to University of Florida, Gainesville, and I got my bachelor's in nutrition. After that, I was lucky enough that I got a full ride to University of Miami, where I completed my medical degree. And it was a great experience. Shout out to UM because they really take a chance. They really help people, and the scholarship helped me significantly. So after finishing my medical degree, I became board certified in internal medicine, and I started my career as a hospitalist, meaning I was working in the hospital, seeing patients in all kind of acute situation, emergency room, ICU. I was carrying the code beeper, meaning when somebody has a heart attack, I was the one that was running and going to do CPR and helping patients. I did 12 years of that. I loved it, but it was grueling work. It was long hours, very stressed. And eventually I was able to leave the hospital because I wanted to go more into the preventative side. So I started a weight loss clinic and I got another board certification in anti-aging, in hormone replacement, because we don't learn about this in medical school at all. So I had to relearn, unlearn a lot of the things I had learned in medical school and relearn to really do this. And now I look at myself, right? I graduated medical school in 2001. So that's 23 years later. The way I practice medicine here is so much more different than what I learned in medical school. It's so much more, in my view, evolved. It's so much more, I include a lot of alternative medicine, complementary medicine, functional and regenerative medicine, whatever one you want to call it, but I have a lot more tools now to really help people live their best lives.
Interesting. So I want to touch a little bit upon what has changed in practicing medicine for you and kindly tell me a little bit how the focus on optimizing health, wellness, and longevity is now your core focus and how you came to that conclusion. How, like, what change led to what, and then now you are like, I'm doing this differently. Tell us a little bit about that.
Definitely. So when you think about Western medicine, conventional medicine, we are great at treating acute disease, right? If you broke your arm, you have cancer, you need surgery, you want to go to a hospital, you want to go to a US hospital to meet best healthcare. People will argue with me about this, but people come from everywhere to get their surgery and their cancer treatment in this country. We have amazing hospitals. My training was great. So we are really good at acute medicine. We're not that good at preventive medicine. We're not that good at wellness. We're good at treating illness. We're not good at optimizing wellness. And that was the change that happened to me. At some point, I said, it's not enough for me to help people not die. I want to help them thrive. It sounds cliche, but a lot of doctors, a lot of providers, medical providers who went into this, it's because we have a healing spirit. We want to help people. And unfortunately, working the long hours that I was working, having to deal with insurance companies, with the suits, the executives letting you know how long you have with each patient, what you can order, what you cannot order, took the healing spirit out of medicine. And you see that a lot of my colleagues who are still in conventional office-based, insurance-based medicine, they hate their jobs. And it's so sad for me to see that. I love my job. I love helping people because I got out of that that box of insurance-based medicine. Right now I don't take insurance. I'm cash pay, and I'm able to spend time with my patients. I'm able to really go after what really matters. Still, if my patient needs surgery, has a trauma, I will send them to the conventional doctor. But when it comes to general health, preventive health, wellness, our system is not well equipped for this. But where I have optimism is I remember going to a lot of the conferences, the anti-aging conferences, the regenerative medicine conferences since 2005. That was 19 years ago. When I used to go, there were maybe 100 doctors, 200 doctors. Now you go to those conferences, there's 5,000 attendees. There's doctors, nurse practitioners, PAs. People are looking into this. And you know what? The public is also demanding better care. And I think it's because of TikTok, podcasts, social media. There's an awareness that patients are asking, no, this is not enough. They consult Dr. Google, they come see their doctor, and they're like, no, no, no. You're not going to get away with this, doc. I need an answer.
It's a couple of things I want to point out. One is you are running your cash-based practice and it is out of pocket. Do you feel the pressure of, like, even with this comes the equation, right? You need to meet certain number of patients to keep the business running. And my fear always is when physicians run their own practice is like they might again fall into that trap that now to make more money, I need to again see more patient, and then it becomes like the same hamster wheel. How do you like balance that thing, or is there kind of like a formula, or maybe Dr. Rudy's formula that other physicians can steal? Can you put a shine some limelight on how you manage that balance, that equation to keep the business in a way how it's running, but also keeping that balance of like you again don't want to fall in the same old trap?
Yes, for sure. And for me, I know what my strengths are and what my weaknesses are. I'm a great healer. I know my science. I'm really good with patients. I'm not a good executive. I'm not good at business. So I surrounded myself with the right team. So I have two clinics, one called A New You, which is my weight loss clinic, where my wife, who's also a doctor but has a lot of organization and management style, helps manage that practice. And my other practice that I'm part owner with my business partners, Medical Health Institute, those guys make my life easy because they allow me to be the doctor. I know there are some doctors who like medicine part and are very involved in the management, administration of their business. For me, I'm the type of guy, I focus on my strengths and I rely on others. I surround myself with the right people for my weaknesses. This is a recipe for success. When I look at the business world, the best CEO is not the smartest person in the room. He's the guy who knows how to recruit the best team around him.
Yeah, I read not many months ago, maybe 2 3 months ago, somebody said the definition of entrepreneur, and the up until that point, my thing was like a builder and somebody like that. But that definition was the entrepreneur is a person who is really good in organizing things, making
Yeah.
sure organizing people, organizing process, organizing things that need to happen. So that really changed my perspective, and it
Yeah.
resonates to how exactly you're saying it.
And I'm
Um,
going to tell you, as an MD, that was very humbling to me because MDs unfortunately tend to have very big egos. I had to check my ego outside the door to realize, okay, this is not my strength. Let go of some control. Trust. Surround yourself with the right people because you hear a lot of horror stories of doctors who trusted business partners and who didn't go well. I had a few organizations that didn't do well by me, but it is what it is. You learn, you fall, you get back up, and now I found my home. I have my two practices that I'm thriving at because I'm allowed to be just the doctor, the healer, and then a lot of it is taken care of for me. Of course, I participate in all the executive meetings. I'm very voiceful. I'll say my opinion, but I listen to others a lot. So if something I can tell to any medical providers, listen, learn to check your ego.
yeah, and going back to specifically the US healthcare system, and you said like we are kind of a sick care system versus something not like the preventative or wellness where we don't do much better. But as a patients, we are population, we are going through this revolution of like more awareness towards wellness. So tell me a little bit, through your wellness philosophy, I know that you have created this wellness framework with 6 blocks in it. Could you take a little bit time, explain what first inspired you to create this framework, and then go a little bit details on this framework, please?
I'm a very simple-minded person, and I need a plan onto whatever I say. So a lot of times when I'm speaking, those can be very abstract, complex type of subjects. And without, so sometimes a patient, it's difficult for them to follow. Okay, doc, I'm excited. You want me to live my best life. How? So you need a blueprint. You're an engineer, right? Anything you need in life, you need a blueprint. You need to know where you're starting, what am I going to follow, and where am I going to end up. If we don't do that for health, it becomes abstract, complicated, and almost not standardized. So first, the way I approach my patients, I also believe in patient participation into their own healthcare. Because one problem we're talking about the US healthcare, we talk about the medical side, that we're not good at prevention. But I need to talk about personal responsibility on the side of the patient. I hear a lot of patients complain, oh, the doctor didn't do anything for me. I went there, they only want to give me pills. Okay, he wants to give you pills, but did you change your habits? Are you eating better? Are you still exposing yourself to poison? Are you drinking too much? Are you not exercising? If you're doing all this, you go to the doctor and you expect the doctor to fix you, it's wrong. It goes both ways. So yes, doctors, the medical side, we have to do better, but on the patient side, you have to do better. So I tell my patients, I don't believe in the paternalistic type of medicine where you have a doctor sitting on top of a throne and telling you what to do and you just say, yes, sir, see you in 6 months. It's a partnership. I will help you, but you need to help yourself. So based on this, how do I approach my patients? The first thing I always tell my patients when they come and see me, let's see where you are first. Let's do an honest and real inquiry about how you're feeling. I like to cite Bob Marley, is my icon, the reggae music legend. And on his song Exodus, he said, are you satisfied with the life that you're living? That's the question I have for my patients. So before you go see a doctor, not just with a complaint, you need to ask yourself that question. Are you satisfied with your life physically? Do you have enough physical energy, enough vitality? Do you have too much body fat, too little muscle, body muscle, lean muscle mass? Check those. Number 2, are you satisfied with your life mentally? Do you have a negative mindset, a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset? Do you have a victimhood mentality? Do you complain or blame others without looking at yourself? Or instead, do you have gratitude, love, growth mindset? So take a look at yourself. Then you ask yourself, am I satisfied with the life that I live sexually? Are you happy with your sex life? Is anything that we can discuss? And then always, once I get to know my patients better, I even talk about spiritual connection and contentment because it is all part of our wellness. It's always mind, body, spirit optimization. So the first thing I do, I ask the patient, let's do an honest self-inquiry. How are you feeling? Once I have those answers, now I'm like, okay, the goal is to help you move forward on the journey of best life, of optimization, of self-actualization, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it best life because it's a cool name, but it's optimization, self-actualization, the best version of who you can be. So now that the patient has a plan, they know where they are and what they want to get. How do we do this? That's where I came up with my triangle shape of wellness with 6 actionable steps that you can take. And at the bottom of the pyramid, you have the 3 steps that are the most important basics that we need to master. Nutrition, exercise, I don't even like to call it exercise, movement, and sleep. So before any patient goes into any health journey, you need to look at those 3 basic things that you have power on. Can you improve the way you're eating? Can you move more? Move with more purpose, resistance training, mobility training, and let's help you fix your sleep. By working on those 3 basic components of wellness, that's 75% of the improvement. Not easy, but the patient needs to do an honest look at themselves and see where can I improve on those 3 basics. Then we'll go to the second stage. Once we worked on those, then we look, okay, do you have any hormone imbalance? because unfortunately, because of our toxic world, we're seeing, there's something called endocrine disruptors. All the toxic substances like microplastics, BPA, phthalates, glyphosate, atrazine, all the toxins, so many thousands of pounds of toxins are being released in our air, and most of them are what are called endocrine disruptors. They disrupt our endocrine system. Our endocrine system is the system of glands, including the thyroid, the pancreas, the gonads that secrete testosterone, that make up who we are, our health, our vitality. So imagine that we have a whole attack on our endocrine system. So that's why for me on that second page, the endocrine system evaluation is really important. So I do a deep evaluation of blood tests to see if you have any problems with your thyroid, with your insulin resistance, with your testosterone levels. Is your cortisol elevated? So we look at all of those, and if any of them are not balanced, we help balance them out. On that same stage, I talk also about supplements, because unfortunately now, again, our engineered food, ultra processed foods, does not feed us. I like to say that we are overfed, undernourished, and overactivated with dopamine. Overfed because we eat too much, but undernourished because the food doesn't have all the supplements, all the cofactors, the enzymes, the vitamins that our ancestors used to get from food. We don't get that anymore. Studies are showing that, for example, a cucumber back in the 1940s and 50s, for somebody to get the same nutrients that a cucumber back then would give you, you'd have to eat 15 plus cucumbers. It's crazy. Who can eat that? It's just because we don't have enough. So the importance of supplementation in our practice is really important, because we realize that because we live in a toxic world, we may not be able to get all of the nutrients that our body needs, despite what we think is an adequate diet. So let's visualize that again in that pyramid. We have the 3 base steps: food, movement, sleep. 2 steps above, hormones, supplements. And the top of the pyramid, I call it the connection. And connection is about connection with yourself first. How do you love yourself? How do you treat yourself? Connection with people around you, your family, your friends, your community. And the third and most important, connection to the divine. So if you work on all those 6 steps, and then you visualize that pyramid, and I have my patients do that exercise and always see, where can I improve? Where in the pyramid can I do better? And if you work at this gives you a blueprint, something very practical that you can think of. People like practicality. Tell me something to do. How do I do it? How do I measure it? I can work on this. If you just tell me, or just go be better, it's tough. So I like this because I'm a very practical person, and this makes it very practical for my patients.
Very interesting. So, by the way, our show's trailer is based on this pyramid. So you can visit our Dr. Rudy's shows, visit the website, thebestlifecode.com, and see the trailer there, the video, and you will see all these 6 blocks there. And next question to this is, in your experience, what are the biggest challenges people face when they're trying to achieve this best life? Like, you've treated probably hundreds of patients by now.
Thousands of
Give us
patients.
insights on that, please.
I've treated thousands of patients, Vivek, and our biggest obstacle is ourselves. We are our biggest obstacle. We tend to want to blame others, other situations, but that at the end of the day, the power resides in you. And we have an inner healer that we can tap into to help us, but we obstruct it by our bad habits, our weak disposition, our weak willpower. And I've learned how to have a lot of compassion. When I say weak, it's not an accusation, but it's because sometimes we're so toxic that you cannot get yourself to do what you know deep down you should do. So we are our worst enemy, whether we judge ourselves, we complain about ourselves, we do the wrong things. We need to really, and that's why I tell my patients, take an honest look at yourself, not at they did this to me, this happened to me. We all have our story. We all have a cross that we're bearing. I have a mindset that to me is the most important thing. I call it the no matter what mindset. Unconditional, unfazed, unbothered, equanimity. The outside world should not dictate your inside world. This is the hardest thing to do because as humans, we react to the outside world. We always want to point fingers. The hardest thing is to take a look at you and say, what can I do better to improve my situation? Our thoughts make up our world. So that switch happened to me. And we've talked about this. When I started looking more into Buddhism and into a lot of Eastern traditions that really talk about this, that really talk about that we are individuation of the divine and we have power. We tend to think that we are weak as humans and that we always need somebody helping us. We have power. What I always try to do with my patients is empower them with love, with grace, and with gratitude. But at the end of the day, the power lies in you. You know, to be a little cliche about this, I love this when they say, you are the you in the universe.
Very interesting. And if your patient comes to you and they are like, it's easier said than done still, right? Like if the mindset is something, it's very hard to change. So what do you do or suggest to your patient specifically to like, okay, one is like you are going to make the change, but is there something you prescribe them to try, some exercise or something that helps them get over this barrier?
Uh, Maybe not an exercise, but the way I talk to patients, right? And I usually tell them, whatever feeds your soul. You know, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a very spiritual person. Whatever feeds your soul and makes you understand this, that the way you want to live your life, I live my life by 3 Gs. You need to live your life in grace, in the grace of God, the grace of the universe. You live your life with gratitude. You say thank you every day. And you live your life grounded. You realize you're human, you're weak, you're grounded to this earth. You forgive yourself and you go back to grace. So the way I tell people this, it's take a look at yourself, see where you are honestly, and see where you want to go. But all the time you're doing this, you need to love yourself. Again, this is where we're our biggest enemy. Because, for example, in my weight loss clinic, and weight loss is a very good example, because most people who come to me in weight loss, they are depressed about their weight, they're bothered by their weight, they want to change, they come to me. I'm like, great, I'm glad you're here, you took the first step. But you need to love yourself right now, with all your excess fat, with all the skin hanging around you, with you not being able to fit into your pants. You're still an amazing, light person, and you need to love yourself. As we're saying that, we're going to work on getting you better, because there is something called destination happiness. A lot of people are always like, I will be better, I will love myself when this happens. Whether it's weight loss, whether it's addiction, whether it's not getting the right job, not making enough money. It's always when this X happens, I will be happy. We cannot depend on an X. You need to be happy wherever you are. So one of my mentors said that, and I love this. He said, life is always a paradox. It's never either black or white. We always have two things going on. And we need to learn as humans, and the Eastern traditions are really good with this, how to love where you are right now, but be eager for change. Satisfaction and eagerness. If you're too satisfied, you don't move, you stay in place, which is not good. If you're too eager without being satisfied, you're anxious, and that's not good. The balance between satisfaction and eagerness, to me, is part of the yin yang of life. So when I explain that to patients, they don't see it in the first one, but every time they come to me, I try to preach by example. I live my life like this. Not that I'm perfect, not that I don't have my bad moments. I've gone through a lot of hurt, a lot of pain in my life, and I've fallen many times. But like I said, my no matter what mentality, no matter what happens to me, I keep a smile on my face and I get back up, I dust myself up, and I go forward. That comes with experience. When I was younger, I had weeks of not having that kind of mindset, right? It's normal. I'm very human, and I understand the weakness of our humanness. And I honor the weakness of our humanness. But once we do this, I'm like, you don't have a choice. Your only choice to get back up and go forward. So by preaching that and talking about this, and it's hard to talk about this with a patient in a 30 minutes, 45 minutes consultation. That's why I'm trying to do more social media, so more, I want a bigger platform, because at the end of the day, healing starts with this. If we don't understand that, any of the therapeutics that I'm going to bring to you are not going to work. So that said, as you said, what do I prescribe? It depends on what the patient needs. If it's weight loss, we have great tools now, including GLP-1s that we're going to talk about. If it's thyroid issues, we have great medications. If it's testosterone, I'm an expert on testosterone replacement. If it's spiritual awakening, I love psychedelic medicine, meditation, breath work. So we have tools, but all of those things I said are tools. The premise is love yourself where you are and be eager to be better.
Love that. The three G's that you mentioned was so fascinating and powerful. And also, I think the Eastern studies or Eastern way of how it's treated is, I like to believe that if you take this first step and you decided to come to me as a doctor, then you as a patient, you came to me as a doctor, then you have taken this first step. So you are already in the process. You started that process of loving yourself, of caring yourself. So now to question after coming to me is actually out of question because you're already on that journey now. So so that really, I'm also a big believer of Eastern philosophies, and one of the things I always tell is uh, a lot of things in life is like a battle, or run your own race. It's the race with you, like, and that's
Yeah.
what you were saying. The you is such an important thing in whatever aspect you're trying to do in your life.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you emphasizes that with your patient and have them started on their journey to where it leads to their being their best version.
Yeah.
um, Couple of questions on that, more on the on like you emphasize a holistic approach that includes mental and spiritual wellness. But why do you think these aspects are like so often like overlooked in traditional medicine, especially in this part of the world? Like why is it like we're still playing catch up kind of?
Well, when you think about the way conventional medicine evolved in the West, at one point, I think maybe in the 15th century, they separated science with religion, science with spirituality. It was with religion, but science and spirituality were two different things. So the doctors went into science, and the priest in the Catholic religion took care of spirituality and religion. It's one thing. So when you look at quantum mechanics, it's funny. I have a Western mind. I was trained in a Western conventional medicine way. So for me, we treat the body. We treat the physical aspects of the body, whatever it is, whether it's the endocrine system, the the GI, cardiology, neurology. We were great at this. I can until now recite all of the organs, all of the enzymes. I know the Krebs cycle. It's crazy how much information we have on the body. But that's just one third. I believe you'll hear me talk. Everything I do is 369. I believe in energy. The Trinity, Tesla always said that if you want to understand the universe, you need to think about 3, 6, and 9. That's why I have 6 components of my wellness protocol. Because there's a Trinity, mind, body, spirit, right? If we only take care of the body, we leave so much healing on the side. So the switch that happened to me was after I left the hospital, I started doing preventive medicine. And I said, I have great tools to help my patients, but their mental disposition is not changing. Or they have no spiritual connection. Okay, their physical body may be improved, but they're still not their best version. What can I do? What other tools can I do? It's no longer physical. So I started working on the mental. And the mental for me is mindset, your own view of yourself, the disposition, and we'll do one all about the words I like for mindset. And then when I discovered spirituality, I was like, that was the missing link. We are spiritual beings, whether we want to admit that or not. And I went through a part of my life where I was an atheist. I'm not going to say an atheist, an agnostic. I was like, questioning that everything. I thought I was a what we call part of the scientism community. It's all about science. If science cannot explain it, it doesn't exist. There's way more to life than this. And my studies on Buddhism, on Zen, on all of those things, and I combine. Then on the West side now, you look at the theory of relativity with Einstein, who understand quantum mechanics, who understood that really everything, the interconnectedness of all things, the oneness of all things, that's quantum physics. What is an atom? Is it a wave or is it a particle? It's none of those. It's the two at the same time. What is a human? Is it physical or is it spirit? It's both at the same time. So now it's funny how Western thought went, right? We separated science with spirituality. And then with all those years later, in the 1900s, Einstein became very spiritual at the end of his life because he realized that we're all one, we're all connected through the science of quantum mechanics. So that really made that switch for me, that because I needed a scientific path to understand spirituality. I did not want to believe what my religion taught me, that there's a guy with a long beard who created everything and he's the judge of it all. I like more the Eastern thought. When they say Rumi is my favorite poet, and Rumi said that we are not just a drop in the ocean, we are the whole ocean in a drop. That's such an amazing thing for me to visualize that God is the ocean and I'm a drop, but I'm exactly like my God. That gives you power when you understand that. So when I look at illness and wellness, I look at this trinity of body, mind, and spirit. If we just focus only on the body, we're leaving a lot of healing on the table.
And this is a little curveball question.
I love them.
As much as I love capitalism and it's driven by consumption. And one of the reasons I lived in Europe and when I came to US was like, wow, everything is so big. The coffee cup got double sized. Why is that the case? And everything was like so big, right? Like to get the meal, it's so big. How do you feel about this? Like how much of this like consumption, the way at scale the which we consume here, it creates is it doing any good to the society or is it just making us go on the wrong side of everything?
That's a
Your
really, really tough question that I'm always wrestling with because at the end of the day, I'm a capitalist. I came here, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. I worked hard and I made money. In the US, we're really good at this. If you work hard, you can get somewhere. That's why, to me, the US is my adopted country. This is home for me now. And I respect that. But the same way, nothing is ever black or white. So capitalism is good. But how do we balance that with compassion and empathy and support for the ones who cannot succeed? So I tend to be we're not going to talk politics, but I love capitalism, but I love also supporting my community because I come from Haiti and I see what happens when a society have too much difference between the classes. If the haves have way too much and the have-nots are all the way down there, the society doesn't work. So there has to be a way to make it that the society, everybody does okay. That's why for me, I'm always willing to help. I have a big philanthropic heart because I'm like, if I live in a society and I'm the only one that's doing well, or I'm only the top that's doing well, I still live with that community. It'll be better if everybody's doing okay. And I'm still going to work as a capitalist to make more, but with a conscience of our planet cannot take this overconsumption. Again, that's what I was saying about all those toxins. A lot of this happened after World War II when the machinery of war turned into products, right? It was, I think it was 3M company who said that, better living through chemistry. And they started inventing all those products, all those plastics, all those fertilizers that made our life better, no question. But it polluted our planet. Can we continue like this? We can't. Our planet is suffering, and now we're suffering because this is our home. So it's like if you live in a hoarder's house, right? This is what's happening to our planet now. Did you used to watch that show on TV, Hoarders? And they show you people who hoard stuff, and you go inside their house. Things are piling up. This is planet Earth. This is Mama Earth. This is Gaia now. So we have a responsibility to take care of our planet. We're not doing a great job at it, but I keep my optimism that I see that there's an awareness that people are starting to say, okay, I want to really kind of move. If I work hard, I deserve to have things, but we need to reconsider this extra consumerism and what it's doing to our planet and to us.
And a little bit on this topic further, how do you see the role of modern medical advancement like GLP-1 medications and psychedelics in
Yeah.
transforming the future of healthcare?
So those are my three favorite subjects. Again, three, right? The Trinity, the trilogy. My three favorite subjects to talk about, because there's three tools that I use that are completely transforming our society. Number one, when we think about our society, metabolic dysfunction, meaning obesity, overweight, insulin resistance, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, it's all in one continuum. It's metabolic dysfunction. It is killing our planet, not just the US or the first world. It's even happening in third world countries because our food is so bad, as I said, overfed and undernourished. So what is helping change the metabolic crisis that we have? GLP-1 medication are making a big dent. We're going to have a full episode about this, because the solution, because I am again a biohacker, the solution is never just a medication. It is to eat better, you know, the basic food, movement, and sleep. But what happens is we're addicted to those bad foods that big food companies are putting out there. And our endocrine system is so jacked up, is so messed up, that it's hard for a lot of people to make the right decision if they can afford the right food. So GLP-1 may not be the solution, but they're a good tool for how bad we are. I always like to say I have a love-hate relationship with GLP-1s. I love them because how effective they are. They change people's relationship with food. They change people's behavior. But I hate that we have to use something like this. Because when a patient goes to a doctor and the doctor tells them you need to lose weight, all they tell them, eat less and exercise. See you next year. Next year, the patient comes back 10 pounds heavier. Come on, I told you, eat less and exercise. If a patient can do it without, I'm happy. I push my patients because I go with those three tenets of the basics: food, movement, and sleep. But if you cannot, now we have GLP-1s that are a great tool to help diminish the incidence of and the dangers of metabolic disease. Number two, it's testosterone replacement. Testosterone replacement, now there's an epidemic of low testosterone in our society. I have young men as young as 18 years old who come up with low testosterone. My average patient now, their age is 35 to 37. When I started doing testosterone replacement in the early 2000s, my average patient was 55, my age, right? This is when patients, I always learned that patients needed testosterone. It's called late onset hypogonadism in their later years, in their 60s and 70s. Now, most of patients are in their 30s because of our toxic world. And testosterone is such an important hormone for vitality, for health, for brain connection, for vitality, that if somebody experiences low testosterone, giving them testosterone back, testosterone replacement therapy is transformative. And the third tool that is truly transformative and is actually, to me, the most important one, is the psychedelic revolution that's happening. Because we have a problem of meaning and purpose in our society now. Because of social media, people are turning away from spirituality, from religion and spirituality, or they have a very superficial spirituality. I look at what the power of psychedelics. Right now, ketamine is the first non-typical psychedelic that's FDA approved to use depression and anxiety. And I have a ketamine clinic in Miami. I've used psychedelics outside of the country also. And the one thing psychedelics can do, yes, they show great promise, with studies for depression, anxiety, addiction, PTSD, so many things. But what psychedelics can do, it can make you experience oneness. And I've experienced this. There is nothing, you can't put that into words. If you're lucky enough to be able to experience oneness, you understand that we're all in this together. And then it changes your perception. Some people can experience that with prayer, with meditation, with breath work, with moments of awe. But psychedelic have become another tool, when used properly, to make people really have more love in themselves for yourself, for your community, for your planet, and for the divine. So those three tools, GLP-1 medication for metabolic dysfunction, testosterone replacement for people who need it, and psychedelic revolution to help elevate our vibration and our consciousness. Those three tools are going to revolutionize healthcare, and I use all of those tools to help my patients get to the place where I want them to be.
And specifically for the younger population having these things at such an earlier age group now, what's causing that? What's like, is it just the lifestyle has led to
Well,
this, or?
yeah, like anything in medicine, it's multifactorial, we call it, multiple things. But when you look at the last 40 to 50 years, there's been a precipitous drop in testosterone. You look at an average 30-year-old guy now, he has the testosterone equivalent of a 75-year-old guy back in the 60s, back in the 50s, 60s. So testosterone has been dropping, but the past 30 to 40 years, it was like this, drop, precipitous. In the past, there's a study, and we interviewed Dr. Swan. She wrote an amazing book called Countdown. And I encourage everybody to read that. We interviewed her. If you go on YouTube, you look at my name and Dr. Swan, you'll see that. She's an epidemiologist from Harvard, and she was able to show that over the past 40 years, sperm count has dropped 52%. And sperm count is very closely related to testosterone. She showed also that testosterone is following the same trend, and she finished that study in the early 2010. She updated it in 2012 to 2016, and she saw that the rates of decline of sperm count and testosterone is even faster. What's causing this? It's not our genes. Our genes did not change in 40 years to see that. It has to be our environment, our toxic environment. In her studies, she was able to show direct effect of plastics, especially a plastic component called phthalates. It's called the phthalate syndrome. And it showed that if young baby fetus were exposed, if the mother was exposed to phthalates at a certain time of development, usually within the first trimester, that baby fetus had more chance of having low testosterone, infertility, testicular cancer, and a whole host of sexual and reproductive issues. And think about this. We produce about 350 million tons of plastics every year, sorry. And it's not going anywhere. It remains. So microplastics are in every tissue. They've done studies now. They found microplastic in 100% of testicular tissue, placental tissue, breast milk, the brain. What are those microplastics doing to us? We don't know. But you see microplastics and you see all of these endocrine problems. Plastics are an endocrine disruptors. Can we put those two together? It's hard to do cause and effect because we're exposed to so many things at the same time. You know, people say it's the culture, it's the internet, it's too much porn available, it's social media. All those things play a role, but Dr. Swan showed with her studies that there's a biological reason also, that we're being exposed to estrogens, it's called xenoestrogen, a fake estrogen. We're being bathed by that fake estrogen. And women are not spared by this. For women, you see that when they are exposed to those fake estrogen, we're seeing that a lot. Young girls are getting their period at an earlier age, called their menarche. Now it's down to almost 9 years old. It used to be 12, 13, or 14. You even see some 6, 7-year-old young girls who are starting having to have breast buds developing. That's too much estrogen. It can increase things like breast cancer, fibroids, so many things. So those toxins are really affecting our population. And by the way, it's not just humans; it's affecting animals. So there's a lake in Florida that they did a study. There's a pesticide called atrazine, and they saw that frogs who lived in that water and were exposed to that pesticide had more risk of having all kind of sexual problems. It turned female frogs into male frogs. I'm sorry, the opposite. Turned male frogs into female frogs. It gave them all kinds of problems. It gives them developmental problems, reproductive problems. So it's affecting our whole planet. I don't see that changing, unfortunately, because there's too much money riding on this. We depend on those things too much. So where are we going to go? It's a difficult question. The way I see what we're doing now, we're living through a crazy experiment right now. The earth is a contained environment, right? It's like a petri dish. When I was doing my experiments in med school, they give you a petri dish. It's a contained environment. You put a toxin and you see what happened to the bacteria. That's what we're doing to our human race. We're dumping 350 million tons of plastic a year. We use 80 million pounds of glyphosate, Roundup, that has been shown to be toxic. 50 million pounds of atrazine. We're dumping all this into a contained environment, and we live in that environment. So to answer your question, is I feel like our toxic environment has a lot to do with it. It's hard to prove causation, cause and effect, but you can really infer a lot on this.
Interesting. Maybe we probably will have another episode on this
A
going
full
deeper.
episode on this.
Um, but to conclude this first very fascinating episode, in your opinion, what is the first step someone should take if they want to begin their journey towards their best life? I mean, this is also considering that everything, you don't have control over external external factors, and you are in America, and you have to start, today make that decision to live your best life. How should they go about it?
Number one, what we talked about the whole time, self-inquiry. Take ownership of who you are. Stop blaming, stop pointing fingers. So you are the most important thing that can make a decision in your life. Nobody else. Take ownership. Number two, ask yourself, are you satisfied with the life that you're living? Have an honest self-inquiry. Once you ask that, find ways to make improvement. And while you're doing this, do it with grace, with gratitude, and remain grounded.
Well, these are the golden words of wisdom. Let's say that it all starts from yourself and asking yourself the question about your current status quo, and then taking these steps towards improving your life. So, Dr. Rudy, this has been
All
great.
while loving yourself, always,
Always. So, loving yourself, very
no
important.
matter what.
That's a great message to conclude today's episode. I really enjoyed this conversation, and more folks, we want you to listen to this more. Come back again next time, and you are also welcome to not miss this episode. Go on the website thebestlifecode.com, enter your email so we can also send you notifications whenever the episodes are ready, or subscribe on Apple and Spotify, so when the episodes launches, you get it on your phone devices. Thank you, Dr. Rudy. This has been
That was
great.
great. Thank you, Vivek.